Hello and welcome to episode number 619 of Smart Podcast Trashy Books. I'm Sarah Wendell. Amanda is with me, and it's time to go back in time to September 2002. We asked our Patreon community to vote on this month's issue, and September 2002 won by a wide margin. So we're starting with the book reviews. There are strange subcategories and overlapping genres and color-conscious aliens, which cannot be a good thing. Plus, we talk about one of the best lines that Avon ever produced. Do not miss the visual aids because the covers are something. You can find the visual aids through the link in the show notes in the little tiny file that you are listening to in your podcast player, or go to smartbitchestrashybooks.com/podcast and look for episode 619. Hello, and as always, big thank you, huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Patreon community. The Patreon community makes episodes like this possible. They help make sure that every episode, including ones like this, have a transcript, hey garlic knitter, and they keep us going. Plus, if you join the Patreon, you get full PDF scans of every Romantic Times issue, and some of these are not available online, so that's kind of a fun time travel, time capsule, both to go through. Plus, you get bonus episodes and a truly lovely Discord. If you are interested, have a look at patreon.com/smartbitches. We would love to have you. Support for this episode comes from Lumi Deodorant. If you are looking to feel confident head to toe, have you considered making the switch to Lumi? Lumi is a game-changing whole-body deodorant powered by mandelic acid. It was designed and developed by an OBGYN, and it delivers outrageous 72-hour odor control absolutely everywhere. And they've got over 300,000 five-star reviews from very happy customers who feel very confident indeed. Special offer just for you. New customers get 15% off all Lumi products with our exclusive code and link. Use code SARAH15 at LumiDeodorant.com. That's LumiDeodorant.com and use code SARAH15. The thing I like most about Lumi, and about pretty much every beauty product I love, is that I use it and then I don't think about it again. That is the best kind of product. I put it on, it works, I don't worry. Even when it's 90 degrees with 90% humidity, I am not concerned. A lot of people depend on and recommend Lumi, especially in communities that focus on things like body changes that come with menopause, for example. Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like a mini body wash or a deodorant wipes, plus free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 15% off all Lumi products with our exclusive code. And if you combine the 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, that equals over 40% off their starter pack. And the products in the starter pack last a really long time. Use code SARAH15 for 15% off your first purchase at LumiDeodorant.com. That's code SARAH15 at Lumi, L-U-M-E, Deodorant, D-E-O-D-O-R-A-N-T.com. Are you ready to go back to September 2002? Let's do this. On with the podcast. So the September 2002 issue was voted on by the Patreon. The headline is Sci-Fi Fantasy and the Female Fascination, because clearly we like alliteration here. We'll talk about the cover more in the ads and features. But this cover is very clip art, and it's like, here are some books. And Dara Joy with an armpit pose. Woo.
Yeah. And this is not the Patreon community's fault.
No, absolutely not. The
very
cover.
excited about this one.
Yeah, I'm sorry to report we are not boring, but this issue is not so exciting.
This issue is a snooze fest. This issue is so boring, everybody.
Sorry.
So sorry.
Maybe we should do an edible as we're recording so it gets sillier and sillier. So the first review section, as always, is historical romance. And I was really excited to see a particular subgenre that doesn't exist anymore that I wish would come back. I think there are some writers that would do really good books in this subgenre. Page 47 of the magazine, we have Catherine and the Pirate by Karen Hawkins, who also wrote a bunch of historical romances. This is a young adult, and it is from the Avon True Romance line. Now, the Avon True Romance line was a line of YA romances. And I put a little link in the sidebar to to the list of them on Goodreads. And they all have things like, Victoria and the Rogue by Meg Cabot, Amelia and the Outlaw by Lorraine Heath, and Josephine and the Soldier by Beverly Jenkins. There's also Belle and the Bow by Beverly Jenkins. And if I remember correctly, she has talked on social media about how these are very hard to find and collectors really want them. These were historical romances written for a YA audience, but by authors like Meg Cabot and Bev Jenkins and Lorraine Heath, which is amazing. I think that it would be really cool if there were a line like this where you had, especially with diverse history, YA historical romances. I think that would be so cool. I don't know if anyone would be interested in that, but I think it's really neat that it once existed.
There's something similar like that that's out now, and it's the Remixed Classics series.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's retellings of like The Great Gatsby, I think Jane Eyre and Little Women, and all of these like classics, but it's remixed with like diversity in mind. And there are some like romances in there, but it's not like strictly a historical romance for a younger audience. But it is like historical classics for a younger audience with a focus on diverse storytelling. And they're pretty good. The covers are gorgeous.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think these line up because I think the Avon True Romances were meant for an older young adult reader. But I know Disney has the Disney Twisted Tales series, which I think is aimed at middle grade, which is actually, as a subgenre, a lot of middle grade librarians and school librarians and authors have been talking about middle grade being very hard to sell and very hard to sell to publishers. Disney doing the Twisted Tales is doing very well with those. And Farah Rashan has written a couple that have become New York Times bestsellers, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But those are like retellings of, I think Farah's was, what if Tiana had taken a deal with the Shadow Man in The Princess and the Frog, and what would that have looked like? It's very cool. So here's the review for Catherine and the Pirate, 4 stars, setting 1700s Boston. Catherine and Royce Markham's parents died when they were very young. Since Royce is 12 years older than Catherine, he was able to retain custody as Catherine and raise her. I imagine that was supposed to be of, or he just took her identity, either way. Their relationship grew to the point where they were best friends as well as family. When Catherine is told by her uncle that Royce is dead, she doesn't believe it. She has a gut feeling he is still alive, and she is proven right when a ransom note is sent. Catherine must bring 50 gold pieces to a faraway place to get Royce back. To get her there, she enlists the help of Derek St. John, Royce's best friend. He agrees to help her, never expecting to fall in love. Now they must battle the sea, pirates, and their raging feelings. Catherine and the Pirate, written with intelligence, is a wonderful book for teenagers. Catherine is a great role model. She is strong and does not allow anyone, even someone she loves, to tell her what to do. She fights her own battles and refuses to be a damsel in distress. This book is so well written, even adults will enjoy reading it.
I want to know how old the love interest is. I'm assuming the love interest is possibly Derek St. John, who is her brother's best friend, but her brother is 12 years older than her.
So maybe he's like 10 years older than her, yeah.
I'm not an age gap gal.
Not an age gap kind of girl. Of all of the books that were in this issue, this was the one where I was like, oh, I could read that. That sounds kind of cool. So what was your pick?
So on page 44 of the magazine,
yes, ma'am,
I picked one of the lower rated reviews in this section. And
I love it when you do that because sometimes that's my choice. So bring it on.
This is Season of Splendor by Liz Madison, published by Zebra. Setting is 19th century London. It looks like it's also part of a series because they list the previous title is Delighted.
Isn't that so smart?
I know. I love that they list previous titles. So the review is, in order to find the man who beat his best friend to death, Devin Blake gets a job as a servant in Lord Kendall Rushmore, the Earl of Beddington's home, since Devin believes that it was his eldest daughter, Claire, who may have seen something that night. Wow, that is a long sentence.
That's one sentence.
That is one whole sentence, everyone, if we're keeping track at home. He needs to get her alone to be able to talk to her, but Claire is very aware of the differences in their stations and tries to keep her distance. Though she is being courted by the Marquess of Westbury, she is still attracted to Devon, but her class consciousness makes her pull back each time they get closer. When Devon uncovers the killer's identity, he places his life in jeopardy and is unjustly accused of stealing a family heirloom. Claire realizes how much she loves Devon and vows to find the proof she so desperately needs to free him. Unfortunately, this single-title effort by Miss Madison doesn't live up to the enchanting short story in the Delighted anthology that was her debut. I found the pacing in Season of Splendor to be sluggish. In fact, the story doesn't pick up until after chapter 15.
Oof.
Claire is snobbish, and I have no idea why Devon falls in love with her. Once the story picked up, though, and moved along and was enjoyable, Miss Madison has the potential to be a fine storyteller. It will be a pleasure to see her really tap into her talent. Sensual.
Sensual. Wow.
In case you forgot.
Okay, so first of all, how much do you want to bet that the first 3 paragraphs give away most of the book? That was a book report.
Lot.
That was a book report of a lot of plot deals.
It's a long review compared to some of the other ones.
Yeah. But in terms of a low scoring review, it tells you why.
Yeah. And I find it interesting because I feel like in other editions of the magazine, the reviews don't often center the reviewer.
No.
I can't remember the last time we read one that says, like, I felt this way, or I was not, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so I found it interesting that this one also did that, because I don't remember most of the reviews that we read using that sort of language.
So moving on to sci-fi and fantasy, it's interesting that you bring up the I, because that's actually one of my biggest editorial notes when I'm editing for the site is I need you to put the not you, I. Not you will find, I found. I want to hear about your experience with the book. You can't predict someone else's experience, but I want you to talk about your experience with the book. That is the most valuable and valid way of evaluating your experience having read this book.
But it's interesting because in other places that I review for, they feel the opposite. They're like, we don't want an I. But, you know, like some places don't. Like, I feel like our site is different in that people get a really good opportunity to get to know the reviewers and get to know what the reviewers like, what they don't like, and can kind of match to a reviewer who likes the same things they do. Whereas some places, they don't really have bylines, so they don't really want your personality because it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so like sometimes it's tricky. Some places don't want like the personal connection to the story. But in any reviewing that you do, I feel like it's always subjective. Like no review is like the definitive objective statement on a book.
And it's interesting to see something like Kirkus, no bylines. All of these reviews are Kirkus reviews. They are all from an entity known as Kirkus. I imagine Kirkus wears vests and tweed pants. That is my guess. So moving on to science fiction, I picked a 1-star review for a book called Evil Seed. This is romantic science fiction. It's just a gross name by C.G. McGovern Bowen. Okay, strap in. This is a really weird, meandering, strange summary here. All right. Earth's persona, Gaia, needs help to remove this latest batch of humanity before their negative energy destroys her.
Get it.
Yeah, right? I understand. I'm with you.
You're harsh in the vibe, humans.
Yeah, you're fucking it up. Please leave. Eons ago, Raipan, a psychic sexual predator, was drawn to the powerful negative vibes of Gaia's inhabitants and continually instigates misery and suffering in order to feed. After proto-humans ruined Mars and Venus, they were seeded to Earth to hopefully evolve past their brutal warlike tendencies, but they rarely improved. The legends of Atlantis, Mu, and Lemuria chronicled the rise and fall of earlier civilizations wiped out by Gaia when they became too contaminated by the evil one's essence. Only a handful of enlightened souls and benevolent aliens will be able to contain Raipan's evil in order to protect Gaia. Highly recommended to me as a sexy science fiction adventure, I was surprised I could barely finish Evil Seed. The premise of Gaia fighting back against her hopelessly ignoble human infestation was excellent. Higher evolved allies, both human and alien, joining to combat an evil entity should have been intriguing, but unfortunately was stilted and contrived. Ms. McGovern Bowen's exhaustive research created a narrative reading more like a combined pedantic history/New Age lesson than entertaining fiction. 1 star. Now, again, there's I couldn't finish it. This was boring. I'm digging this review. Like I didn't love the features in this magazine, but the reviews are very useful. I was into this. What did you pick?
So I picked another romantic science fiction on page 52. It's called Earthrise by William C. Dietz, and 4 stars.
Woohoo!
I also don't understand where the romance comes in for romantic science fiction in this one, but who knows? Earthrise is the stunning conclusion to the Sauron invasion begun in Death Day. And immediately I'm like, Sauron?
Sauron?
What is this, Lord of the Rings?
Like Eye of?
Yeah, like Eye of.
Okay.
The clock is ticking as human slaves complete huge birthing citadels for their captors.
Ugh.
Yuck. President Alex Franklin and his security chief, Jack Manning, are plotting rebellion with their new alien allies, members of the technically superior Ra-Na race. Pockets of human resistance are slowly consolidating towards Bellingham, Washington, until a renegade human warns the Saurons of the upcoming revolution. Independence Day with a twist. I'm assuming they're referring to the sci-fi alien classic Independence Day, the movie.
Yeah.
With Will Smith and Randy Quaid? Or is it... I think it's Randy, not Dennis. Or maybe it is Dennis Quaid. Who's the bad one? The bad Quaid is in Independence Day. Independence Day with a twist. Quaid. It's Randy, yeah.
It's Randy Quaid.
Independence Day with a twist. Mr. Dietz delivers a rousing finale to his apocalyptic vision of Earth's invasion by color-conscious aliens. We'll get back to that. His portrayal of ordinary people fighting for their lives and freedom is a touching tribute to the human spirit, demonstrating that life goes on and love doesn't die. What does that mean? Color-conscious aliens.
I don't know, but I don't think it's anything good.
I don't think it's a good thing.
No, I think it's
but
not
I
a good
want to
thing.
know what the hell they mean.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
I'm not reading it. There's no way. Sorry, I was looking up what color-conscious aliens mean.
I don't. I just did a quick Google and I could not tell you, but it makes my stomach hurt, so I don't actually want to know.
Someone said this. I'll read the first paragraph of this review that I saw on Goodreads from Alger Smythe Hopkins.
Ooh.
1 star. What the hell was this book? It's like Dietz entered in a write a worse novel than George R.R. Martin contest and was like, oh yeah, I can do that.
Ooh.
This novel is insane. It is sub-pulp. It is Vogon poetry. Obviously, there are reasons I object to this terrible book, so let's try to explain with minimal spoilers. Trust me, none of what follows will ruin anything for you because this book is that unoriginal, but it will be detailed and maybe it will warn you off if you haven't already read it.
Wow. This sucked and I hated it.
Okay, here's where the color-conscious stuff comes in. This person mentions that in the book contains the first all-black presidential team in American history. And someone said there is a racial subplot.
Oh, that's not going to be handled well. I'm willing to bet. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, now we know.
A racial subplot with, yeah. Okay. So
moving on. We're moving on.
We're just going to leave that there. Oh boy. Next is mystery, suspense, and thrillers. And one of the things that I noted was that they have a category key. So in the big summary, there are little brackets with letters. And the categories are amateur sleuth, anthology, espionage, hard-boiled, historical, legal thriller, medical thriller, private eye, procedural, reference, suspense, and traditional. What the hell is a reference?
There are no reference ones reviewed.
In this, I don't know what reference means. But that is a very interesting category delineation. And I think you could apply that to a lot of books now, except that you'd need to explain what traditional means and you'd need to add cozy.
Yeah.
So page 68 was the one that I wanted to talk about. It is called A Body in the Bathhouse. This is a historical. It is a series. It is humorous, according to the heading, by Lindsay Davis from Mysterious Press, 3 stars. Now, I pulled this one because you think, oh, historical, maybe Victorian. Oh, no. We're going to ancient Rome. Life is hectic for Marcus Didius Falco, ancient Rome's Philip Marlowe. While her children run wild, his sister Maya is flirting with the spy Anacrates and avoiding the amorous advances of Petronius. Then there's his bathhouse. A horrible stench is coming from it, and the workmen have disappeared. It turns out there's a decayed corpse in the bathhouse, and something Falco's father is responsible. There's also the trouble with the palace being built in Britain, and the emperor wants Falco to investigate. At first, he's unwilling. Everyone knows how bad the British weather is. But when things heat up with Maya and Anacrates, Falco takes the entire family to Britain, where he runs into another murder and the missing workmen. Lindsay Davis presents us with another ancient screwball comedy in A Body in the Bathhouse. The action is fast and furious, and readers will divide their time between being mystified and laughing out loud. 3 stars. I love the idea of being mystified. Like, what the hell is happening?
I don't know if that one sold me on that one.
That is, I just love historical ancient Rome. And the weather is bad in Britain, and everyone in Rome knows it.
I love that in the mystery section, there's always a mystery with a dog.
Oh, absolutely. There has to be a dog one. There is one here.
I spotted a lot of like racially motivated crimes in this section.
Yes.
It's just like, oh boy. But I picked a book called Labyrinth by Mark T. Sullivan on 76. It's listed as suspense romantic.
Ooh.
And it has 4 stars. The year is 2007.
Oh, that's 5 years in the future for this magazine.
Yeah. The year 2007 brings the most important caving expedition in U.S. history.
Huh?
A grueling 125-mile underground trek through Labyrinth Cave to prepare NASA's astronauts to mine on the moon in an attempt to lessen our reliance on foreign fuel. Renowned caver Tom Burke and his 14-year-old daughter Cricket will spearhead the expedition.
No.
Yes.
No.
They're allowing a teenager to spearhead this expedition into a 125-mile underground labyrinth.
I cannot convey to you to the degree of nope that is for me.
Do you imagine showing up to this expedition and one of like the co-leads is a 14-year-old girl?
Good God. First of all, I wouldn't show up because I'm not doing this. There's no way.
No.
Mm-mm.
They both desperately miss Cricket's mom, Whitney, who's been traumatized by a tragic accident and vowed never to enter a cave again.
Can I just say that seems like sound judgment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now she doesn't have a choice. A band of vicious criminals have escaped and they're headed for Labyrinth, led by a madman searching for a stone that turns metal into gold. When Tom and Cricket are taken hostage, Whitney must overcome her paralyzing fear and enter the subterranean depths to save them, racing against time and the forces of nature.
Again, no.
After a slightly slow information-packed start, Labyrinth becomes a stunning, nail-biting read with as many unexpected twists and turns as the cave itself. All of the characters have depth and complexity, and the Burke family is wonderful. Their love for each other is palpable, and Cricket especially is a smart, strong, yet realistic young heroine. And that's it. And I don't think it's very realistic that an expedition designed to help prepare NASA astronauts to mine on the moon would be co-led by a 14-year-old girl.
I mean, think about it. On one hand, we have the decreased reliance on foreign fuel. And on the other hand, we have 14-year-old team leader.
What is this, a summer camp?
Apparently. Cricket, no. Oh, my goodness.
Boy.
Oh, boy, is right. Now, mainstream fiction, we have said in previous episodes that we will like look at a section. If there's really nothing speaking to us, we will just pass. And we both passed on this one. There is a category key. This is what's inside mainstream fiction. Contemporary chick lit, fantasy, futuristic, multicultural, paranormal, reincarnation, suspense, time travel, and vampire.
Here's the thing that like, oh, this is just mainstream fiction.
Yeah.
But why is mainstream fiction suspense here and not in the like mystery thriller? Like, what's the difference between suspense fiction and suspense label in the mystery, suspense, and thriller category?
And suspense mainstream versus, I don't know. I don't know either. It's really, really weird. But nothing really spoke to us. I will say that, as I wrote in the document that we share, Nicholas Sparks's Knights in Rodanthe got a 4.5-star top pick. And I saw that and my appetite was gone. I was like, well, no, not really interested. And we just passed. Like nothing here really spoke to any of us. And I don't think any of these books have really, with the exception of Rodanthe, I don't think any of these books have really stood any kind of endurance test.
No, I like skimmed the names and I'm like, I don't recognize any of these.
No. Now, what's weird is the next section is mainstream romance. Again, with a category
like contemporary.
Key, right? So can you read the category for the category key for this one, which is alarmingly similar to the mainstream fiction? This is a very strange delineations here.
So in mainstream, there's contemporary romance, erotica, fantasy romance, which I don't know why they wouldn't put that in sci-fi fantasy, futuristic, ghost, multicultural, paranormal. I feel like ghost and paranormal, or ghost is part of paranormal, but sure. Reincarnation. How often does that happen to where it needs its own designation? Romantic adventure. Romantic suspense. I'm sorry. This is my villain origin story. I'm turning into the Joker over here is what's happening. Time travel.
Yep.
And vampire, which is also a sub-series or subcategory of paranormal.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
I honestly don't know. This is so disorganized.
And also, there's an Avon True Romance in here.
Yeah. That one's a contemporary. The Avon True Romance that was before was historical, because there were some contemporary ones and some historical ones. But there's also some very well-known names in here. There's Joanne Ross, J.D. Robbs, Purity and Death is in this issue. A couple of like mainstays like Shannon McKenna and Debbie Macomber are in here. Debbie Macomber got 3 stars, by the way. And that is actually the book that I chose to talk about. Page 80 is the definition of a lukewarm review. And this is the start of the beginnings of the Cedar Cove series for Debbie Macomber, which turned into a TV series, which turned into a knitting pattern line. And I think she had because I remember she won a Lifetime Achievement Award at RWA, and she thanked her literary agent, her film agent, and her knitting agent. So there's like a whole industry built out of this series. But in this particular issue, they gave it 3 stars. Contemporary Romance 204 Rosewood Lane by Debbie Macomber. When Ms. Macomber's second installment of her Cedar Cove series kicks off, Grace Sherman's husband Dan has been missing for 6 months. He simply disappeared. Different signs point to him leaving her for another woman, and Grace and her 2 daughters find themselves in various emotional states. Youngest daughter, Kelly, recently had a baby, and she refuses to believe that her father will not see his first grandchild. The older daughter, Mary Ellen, is facing the fact that men sometimes leave. Her own past leads her to mistrust where men are concerned. To top it all off, a new man has entered Grace's life, and she is torn between finding her past and moving on with her future. Ms. Macomber has made a niche for herself with her series of small-town stories. Like a literary soap opera, she manages to continue stories in such a way that whether you are visiting Cedar Cove again or coming for the first time, you will find yourselves interested in the lives of the people in this little town. That is the most lukewarm review. Like, why is it getting 3 stars? Were you bored? What? This is like, this is one of those reviews where I'm like, is this code? Am I meant to like Am I meant to deconstruct what this means? This tells me nothing. Yeah.
I mean, no shade to Miss Maycomber.
Yeah.
But her books have never appealed to me, and her book covers give me the same feeling of like taking an afternoon nap on a porch. Like, it's fine and nice and a little cozy, but not very exciting.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's a name for that kind of a book, like that kind of a series, because there's a lot of series where you're just going to visit with people. Maybe it's like visiting series. So you're just going to visit with people for a little while. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not going to be sticky or grabby. It's not going to absorb you. You're not going to have your heart racing. It's not going to give you big feelings. It's just going to be like, here's literary soap opera is an interesting way to describe it, because soap operas try to be dramatic. They're extremely dramatic.
Well, like, there's a cozy fantasy novella that I'm featuring in my next edition of Get Wrecked.
Which is such a great series, Sunday. By the way. It's so fun. It's so great.
And one of the biggest complaints that I saw, because it was like recommended to me on like my Libro FM, and I didn't wind up picking it up, but I thought it would be of interest to the site. And one of the biggest complaints was that like nothing happens, that it's just kind of meandering.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like some people, especially in cozy books, whether it's like a cozy mystery, a cozy fantasy, nothing sometimes has to happen. It's just like a meandering book and you're there for a while and then it just ends. Mm-hmm. I personally don't like those books. I need stuff to happen and I need some high stakes for me personally. But I think some people enjoy the like dip in, hang out, and dip out, and then you just kind of forget about it.
Yeah. I also think a lot of books being published right now, because you linked to that really interesting Twitter thread about how marketing books by trope means that you're sacrificing emphasis on plot. It's very hard to sell a plot. It's very easy to promote a trope in a micro format like social media, Instagram, whatever. You have a time limit or a word limit or a character limit. But we've also talked about how a lot of books being published right now seem like they're just vibes.
Yeah.
And this is maybe that's what this is. Maybe that's the best way to describe Debbie Maycomber's books. Debbie Maycomber has a vibe.
Yeah.
And that vibe is knitting.
I feel like the language of social media is very vibe, aesthetic focused, mm-hmm. right? I also go back to Carrie wrote a review, and I think it was for a historical romance, and I can't remember which one, but she described it as a soap bubble book.
Yeah.
It's light, and you're in it, right? You're in this little bubble. But once it pops, it's like you forget all about it, and mm-hmm. you move on with your life.
Yeah, I feel like that's
the vibe I get.
How to Manage a Marquess by Sally Mackenzie.
Yep.
And it's a soap bubble romance. It's light, it's pretty, it makes me happy, and I forget about it the minute it's over. It takes considerable skill to write a decent soap bubble, and if you're stressed or sick or tired, the book might cheer you up. If you want pesky things like consistent behavior, then this is not going to work. I have described Julia Quinn's novels as mineral water, wonderful and bubbly and fresh when it's cold, but the minute it reaches room temperature and you've thought about it for a minute, it just kind of fades away.
Yeah.
So in mainstream romance, what was your pick?
So I picked a book called Side Effects by Frances Aiden. And it's on page 90.
I saw this one and I was super curious about it because it's taking place in Cape May.
It has 1 star.
Ooh.
And it's romantic suspense. A series of gruesome murders lead FBI agent Ryan Berrigan to the restored Victorian town of Cape May, New Jersey.
Yep.
2 women have been brutally slain in a manner eerily reminiscent of the 19th century Jack the Ripper killings, and Ryan is determined to bring the twisted perpetrator to justice. When psychologist Maggie Emery hears of her friend's disappearance, she rushes to Cape May. Maggie and Ryan team up to track the killer and soon find their professional partnership evolving into a much more intimate relationship. Side Effects has the making of a chilling thriller but never lives up to its intriguing premise. The murderer, a truly scary figure, is the only fully developed character in the novel. So much time is spent with the villains that it becomes difficult to follow Maggie and Ryan's developing romance, let alone care about the lives of the two-dimensional characters.
Ooh.
Rushed and underplayed, the climactic final scenes fail to rescue the sagging plot. And I specifically called out the phrase sagging plot because, ooh boy, that's a read.
Ooh.
This is one of the few one-star reviews where I'm like, this is a decent one-star review here.
Yeah, I understand why this got 1 star. And it's, it's published right next to 4.5-star top pick for Purity and Death.
I know, but J.D. Robb.
Ouch. Ugh. Wow. Sagging plot.
Sagging plot.
That's brutal. Ooh. That is quite brutal. There were also some 1 stars in series romance. Did you notice that? There were a couple 1 stars, especially in Harlequin Intrigue. I have the feeling that whoever is reviewing the Harlequin Intrigue has some standards that are not being met by these intrigues. There's not enough intrigue is what I'm guessing. But my pick was 1 star. A Man Worth Remembering by Dolores Fawson. And to recap, if you don't remember from previous episodes, all of the series reviews are written in sections. So it's like a long column, one book after the other, in each in its new paragraph. So they're only a little paragraph. And then each line has its own little column. So this is part of Harlequin Intrigue. Lee has amnesia and doesn't realize that she, like Gabe Sanchez, the man that pulled her out of the lake, is a special agent. She also doesn't recall that Gabe is her estranged husband, only that someone tried to kill her, and she isn't trusting anyone. In an uneasy alliance, she and Gabe team up to figure out who is trying to kill her and why. Dolores Fawson creates predictable characters with unbelievable conflicts. The lackluster dialogue and weak turning points make A Man Worth Remembering a disappointing read. So clearly he wasn't worth remembering. I wonder if she gets her memory back and was like, yeah, nope, I'm out.
I also picked a 1 star, the one right after this.
Tell me all about it.
2 things happen. My brain goes 100 miles an hour. And I am a person who... I feel like when I read something, I automatically start associating it with things that don't really fit, and I'll explain what I mean.
Okay.
So the title is called Lightning Strikes by Amy Thurlow on page 98. And also from Harlequin Intrigue, Daniel Lightning Eagle.
Ooh. So
I read that first, and my mind conjured Sam Eagle from the Muppets. And so from then on, I'm imagining Sam Eagle, which is what I mean, where my brain just is like a runaway train, just constantly associating like pop culture references to things.
Oh, no.
So now I'm on Sam Eagle. So Daniel Lightning, that's his nickname, Eagle, PI for Gray Wolf Pack, has been hired by Hannah Jones's uncle to locate his emotionally unstable, in quotes, niece and the money she has stolen from the church building fund.
Ooh.
When Daniel catches up with her, he's not prepared to fall in love with this beautiful woman who can't recall the details needed to vindicate herself.
Oops.
Readers will find When Lightning Strikes by Amy Thurlow, a predictable story with a tired plot, dull characters, and a romance that lacks sparkle and charm.
Ooh.
Hannah and Daniel don't have much personality at all, and the actions seem always to hinge on Hannah making silly decisions. But going back to Daniel Lightning Eagle, PI for Gray Wolf Pack, gives me like 12-year-old boy trying to write a book vibes. And I don't know if anyone's had this experience, but I have a younger brother, and growing up, he became obsessed with the name Spike and thought it was the coolest, toughest name. So any pet that he had was named Spike. He had a guinea pig named Spike. He had a rabbit named Spike. Any, like, imagination, like, character that he played, if we were, like, you know, play fighting or whatever, always named Spike. Any video game character that he made, always named Spike. So this just gives me like 14-year-old vibe of like, my name is Daniel Lightning Eagle and I work for the Grey Wolf Pack. Like real Mountain Dew Code Red body odor energy, like preteen boy, like
Axe body spray.
Axe body spray so much. That's what it reminds me of. But then picture that teen boy also being Sam Eagle from the Muppets. So that's where my brain went.
Thank you for that journey into your brain. I'm entirely delighted.
It's entertaining to be here for sure in this brain.
So the next and final section is inspirational. And
we're ready to get inspired.
We're ready to get inspired. This, again, is laid out like series where each publisher just has one paragraph for books. So Bethany House, Fleming, Revell, Tyndall, Zondervan. The one that I picked is called Firstborn. And I have to find it on this page because it's not laid. Oh, there we go. Okay. This is from Tyndale House. In Firstborn, 3 stars. Erica, her husband Stephen, and their teenage son have a blessed life until one day a letter arrives for Erica. Slowly, her life begins to unravel. Stephen is concerned and wonders what's in the envelope. When she finally tells him the truth, it's more than he can bear, and he forgets
what's in the envelope?
Right? You don't find out. I'm sorry to say. Spoilers.
Dang it.
He forgets all he's learned since becoming a Christian. Robin Lee Hatcher pens an intense story with flashbacks guaranteed to make you cry. Erica is an incredible character who faces her past head on, very true to life with a strong message. What was in the letter? I'm guessing from the title Firstborn, it's that she had a child before she met Stephen, but like
maybe.
Or maybe she's the firstborn and is set to inherit a planet. Like what is the story here? Does she have to go into a cave with Cricket? Like, what is going on?
She just found out that her NASA expedition is going to be led by a 14-year-old girl.
That's what's in the letter. And he forgets everything he learned since becoming a Christian. Like, what? What happened? What's in the letter? They don't tell you. Can you believe?
I was hoping they would tell you in this review.
But they do not tell you. What did you pick?
So I didn't pick one. I picked a 2-star review. But I picked it mainly to talk about language and how language has changed.
Please tell me everything.
Yeah, this is not a Sam Eagle bit. So, sorry, everybody. But I picked a book called The Covenant, and it was published by Bethany House. The Covenant initially appeared to be about Leah Ebersol, one of 4 sisters. However, numerous unnecessary points of view are problematic and cause the story to seem unfocused. Leah is the tender-hearted daughter who strives to please everyone. She cares about her older sister Sadie and has grave concerns about the way she is behaving. But Leah turns 16 soon and will begin her own courting. Yuck. Her father wants her to marry someone she does not truly love. Her heart belongs to Jonas Mast. If she obeys her heart, what will happen to her relationship with her father and family? You'll have to wait for subsequent books from Beverly Lewis to find out the answers. So, one thing that I caught was the use of the word problematic. Mm-hmm. And how they say numerous unnecessary points of view are problematic, as in, this creates a problem. However, in our modern parlance, problematic means something a little different. Where, like, yes, this creates a problem, but usually using the phrase problematic harkens up differences for me than just like, oh, these details make this reading experience difficult. Not in a triggering way, but in a, like, hard to follow way. So I thought it was interesting. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that word.
Yep. And problematic as a descriptor used to make me so mad. I'm like, what is the problem? I need you to be specific. Is the problem that someone smells bad, or is the problem that someone's actively racist? What's the problem? I need you to be more specific.
Yeah.
Here, it's actually being specific.
Yeah.
It's confusing because too many people are talking. Oh, that makes sense. That is very interesting, though, because the minute you drop problematic, someone's going to go like, oh, and it's very problematic now is very like a euphemism. And it's not.
Yeah, like my brain immediately goes to like someone's racist, someone's a sex pest, like that sort of problematic, not like.
And here it's just us, too many people talking and we're confused. Yeah, it's confusing. So yeah, I don't see any books in here that I'm super into reading except for the first one about Catherine and the Pirate.
Yeah, none for me, really.
Whoa.
And like, thankfully there's Goodreads. So like we can look up the book with the envelope and it'll probably tell us.
Yeah. Wait.
What's in that envelope?
Let me look it up real quick. Firstborn, Robin Lee.
I think you're right in that like she probably had another child.
Oh, it's in the description on Amazon. A powerful contemporary novel from award-winning author Robin Lee Hatcher. Erica's worst fears realized when her well-kept secret shows up on her doorstep. As she reaches out to a daughter she gave up for adoption 21 years ago, her husband pulls away, leaving Erica with an impossible choice.
So the envelope is also with a person.
Yeah.
The person is also there.
Just rolled up with a person, like, here's an envelope and also me. Wholesome writing with a good ending. It was a very quick read. The emotions are powerful and real. Well, I mean, Robin Lee Hatcher's fans liked it, but the husband sounds kind of like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
All right.
He does.
Well, there you go. Those were the books.
Those were the books.
Those were the books. It was all right. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Thank you again to Amanda. I will link to all of the books we talked about, at least the ones that are still in print, and I'll have a whole list of the Avon True Romances if you want to check those out as well. We will be back in 2 weeks with the ads and features of this episode. So, hit subscribe, tell a friend, come hang out with us in 2002. As always, I end with a terrible joke. This week's joke comes from Blue Devil Girl, and it's terrible, which is why I'm telling it to you. What do overhead compartments and vultures have in common? Give up? What do overhead compartments and vultures have in common? They both get filled with carrion. So silly. I love it. Thank you, Blue Devil Girl. On behalf of everyone here, we wish you the very best of reading. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you back here next week. Smart Podcast Trashy Books is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You can find more outstanding podcasts to subscribe to at frolic.media/podcasts.